I've been a nasty girl, nasty. Excuse me. I'm just getting ready for my Palm Street live Pride plant sale tonight, where every plant sold, $1 will be donated to the House of Prism, St. Augustine's LGBTQIA Resource Center. Join us tonight at 7 p.m. for Pride Plantee giveaways. We'll be joined with House of Prism, Sassy Plants, and Sprout and Proud. Don't miss it. Do you feel emotionally connected to your plants? As if in the process of caring for them, they as well are caring for you? What about planty DIYs and thrifting for plant items? If I have your attention, then the Plants by Wade Lee podcast is for you. Join me, plant friends, as we dig deep and experience the magic of plants. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Plants by Wade Lee podcast. I am so excited to have Adam from Potted Together, also known as Knotted on Instagram. Adam,
Hello.
Welcome. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you because I've been listening to Potted Together for a while now, and I've been obsessed with your Hoyas. Like, I have one in the corner that, like, I was going to ask you about because every time I water it, the leaves are, like, mushy. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know if I'm overwatering it or... But you are the Hoya king. I mean...
Oh, gosh.
How many Hoyas do you have in your...
It's been so long since I've counted, but there's definitely, like... That's probably like 120 or so.
That's insane.
I would say.
And like each one has like a different bloom and scent.
Yeah, they're very unique in that way. But I haven't got a large variety of different Hoya blooms because they are vastly different through the species. I usually just get the ones that like bloom kind of for everybody because I'm not, going to extreme measures to get a Hoya to bloom particularly, but yeah, they're so beautiful.
And they taste different. Like you can lick them and
they
have a different flavor.
People think
That's
that
insane.
I'm weird for doing that, but I'm like, it's just nectar, it's a good little, the bees love it. Why can't we?
Yeah, right. I love that. You live in Arizona. Are you originally from Arizona?
No, I was born, I was kind of a military brat, but I was born in Alaska. And when I was quite young, we moved to Nebraska, and that is where I grew up. And so Midwest Nebraska. And then after I graduated college, I moved to Illinois for like 10 years, Bloomington Normal, Illinois. And then in 2019, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Very cool. I lived in Phoenix for a long time. I loved
Oh, did you?
there. Yeah. I had a salon in Glendale, and I lived in all sorts of places. Surprise, and also downtown for a while. But yeah, I loved Arizona. There's so many cool day trips. Bisbee, Jerome. Yeah.
We still haven't been to Bisbee, and I really want to go. My partner really wants to go there, and so we just need to make it a point to go because I hear such wonderful things.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very artsy, and it's actually where I got my first tattoo, which was insane because I was like, I'm not gonna have any tattoos, and my whole body is, well, my arms are covered. And yeah, Bisbee was the first place. Growing up, did you have plants around you, or is this something that kind of developed later on?
It definitely developed later on. I've tried to go back and like take a inventory of like what I was around growing up. We never had any plants aside from, maybe the plant that someone gave for some sort of event or that didn't last very long in the house. So it kind of developed for me like a lot later in life. I think it was 2018 when I first started getting into plants. So it's been about 6 years now. which
That's
is weird to
amazing.
think about.
Yeah, right? Because time goes by so fast. So you
Yeah.
definitely had the you hit the pre-pandemic curve. You were already invested before the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Pilea peperomioides was one of the first like it plants when I was in it, and that was like so hard to find. Green monstera was like impossible to find. Like those were the days.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know if you know Plant Blurred, Camille Bell Hill, but she was telling me that like the black ZZ, the Raven ZZ was so hard to get and was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I was like,
Yeah,
really? It's so crazy.
yeah.
Ugh.
I actually ordered mine from Thailand in one of my first videos on YouTube, and it was cheaper then, but that's where I had to get it from because you couldn't find it. So I added it onto an order, and I still have it. So yay me.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to check that out on your YouTube as well. Tell me a little bit about Potted Together and
Hmm.
how you met Becca and Nicole, right?
Yes.
They are your other co-hosts, and you all have like really forged a really cool friendship through these years of being plant friends and also the podcast. Could you just tell a little bit about like how it got started and um, yeah, and your episodes?
Yeah. So Becca and Nicole they were both they're both plant YouTubers, Becca De La Plants and My Clean Leaves. And we were kind of like all doing YouTube. Nicole's mom used to live near me. And so when Nicole would come and visit, Becca lived in Tucson. So she was like, hey, let's meet up and do a collab. So we did that one time and we just clicked. Like it was just so easy to be good friends with them. And when the pandemic hit, um, we had always talked about doing a podcast together because it's just something fun to do. And I love listening to podcasts. So I was like, it just felt natural. So, the summer of 2020, we kind of just went in hard and like figured out the logistics of podcasting, as best we could and started the podcast, I think September 2000. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. The podcast itself it is about plants, but it's mostly friendship with a little bit of plants sprinkled in. You know, it's structured in a way that we kind of take the first half to like catch up on each other's lives, and then the second half is some sort of topics sometimes. You know, after you do it for so long, you kind of like run out of things to talk about, or like it's very
Right.
niche, you know. And so we still really enjoy doing it, and people still love it. I think people like the catch ups, but we do get quite a few comments like, I thought this was supposed to be about plants, and it's like, okay, well, read the description.
It's that's hilarious, Adam, because I have a 45-minute commute to work, and sometimes I'm like, okay, we've talked about Taylor Swift for 20 minutes, and we have not
Yeah,
talked about
sometimes.
anything else. I love it though.
Yeah.
And it's very infectious, like your friendship, and you can tell that bond even through the airwaves, and I love that. Yeah, so with your collection, you have other plants other than Hoyas, or do you just mostly have Hoyas?
It's probably like 95% Hoya, but I do have some big aeroids. I have an Albo Monstera, a Thai Constellation, some ZZs, some Sansevieras, but the majority of it is Hoya.
When was the turning point that kind of made Hoyas your like niche plant, the plant that you obsessed over?
You know, it was moving to Arizona that did it. Uh, because when I had moved here, I had just a vast array of different species and genus in my collection, like all these different philodendrons, all these anthurium, you know, just a ton of different plants. But as I existed in this space, I'm not the type of plant parent that wants to do a bunch of work to make my environment fit exactly for my plants. So it's like you hang or you leave. But I'm not going to be filling up humidifiers on the daily. I just can't do it. I'm so lazy with
Yeah.
that. So basically Hoyas were the only ones out of the group that were hanging. Like the rest of them were just like, I'm out of here. Like there's no humidity in here. It's hot AF. But the Hoyas were like, yeah, we got it. It's okay. Like we'll go drive for a long time. We're still alive. And so that's kind of the catalyst for me.
That's awesome. I always wondered too, like how that had happened for you, because I see like incredibly beautiful blooms on your Hoyas, and I'm just like, is there any other plants? Like it's just a Hoya. He's a Hoya guy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's mainly it. I really do love the Hoya, and have just found like a kinship with them, and we got a method that works for us, so everybody's happy. So yeah.
Do you have an agricultural background, or is this just been like a hobby that's turned into this cool thing with the podcast and everything, all of the other things that you do with the podcast and as a plant Instagram?
Yeah, it's just a hobby. I really enjoy it. My background is nothing. I have a degree in finance and economics, so like not plant related whatsoever. I never took any like plant science classes or any of that stuff. So it's just kind of live and learn from other people who are kind enough to share their information that they've trudged through and found pro tips, etc.
Yeah. Who are some of like the Hoya people that you admire and that you follow?
Unsolicited Plant Talks is probably my top Hoya person. Like April Mall from there, she's just so smart and just so kind. Doug Chamberlain does a lot of YouTube videos, and I just love him. He gives so much information. He has a website called Vermont Hoyas where he kind of gives you care routines for all of his different Hoyas. He gets them to bloom. That's his goal. And then there's just been some others lots of people along the way. Like I take inspiration from a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. What if a plant parent was just starting out and, they're interested in Hoyas, but they, like for me, I am still struggling. I have 4 or 5. One that I had told you about earlier that I watered like 3 days ago, and now the leaves are like, what are some Hoyas that are easier Hoyas to parent than others? Like good starter Hoyas for someone starting out.
Yeah, I always default to Lacanosa for a good starter Hoya. And I'll tell you why. It's because that one flowers pretty easily, and a lot of the times when people want a Hoya, it's because they want the flower.
Yeah.
When I started my Hoya collection, it was about the foliage, because I was like, I'm never going to get these things to flower. Like, I'll never see a Hoya flower ever. But thankfully, that's not true anymore. But I think a Lacanosa is a good one for a beginner, because it's pretty. It stays relatively small. The flowers are so gorgeous, and they smell so beautiful. So that would be my go-to.
Awesome. What do you use a certain fertilizer or a certain medium when you're like potting your Hoyas?
Yeah. So around like 2019, the end of 2019, maybe beginning of 2020, is when I kind of like really got into having the harder to find Hoyas, and I was afraid of killing them. So there was a local, or she's still here, but there's a local person who is growing a lot of really big, gorgeous Hoya in passive hydro. She was growing in Leca, and I ordered these Hoya that at that time I thought I spent so much money on. Like, I think it was a 2-leaf cutting. It was $85, and I was freaking out about it. Which, I mean, that is a lot of money for just a one node. But things changed big time in the pandemic. So, like, when you look back at that, you're like, that's not that much money. But I messaged her, and I was like, listen, I don't want to kill this. Is Leca a good long-term solution, passive hydro for Hoya? And she was like, yeah, it's worked great. And so that's what I started moving all of my Hoya to, was leca. And then now I'm mostly pon, because so it's still passive hydro. I'm still growing in inorganic mediums, but pon is a little more smaller. It looks like just a bunch of rocks, and it helps keep the plant more stable than leca did. Because sometimes with leca, your plants, if they kind of like tipped over, it could just like pull itself out of the pot and just fall. Because leca doesn't,
Yeah.
there's a lot of room in there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I grow in pond, so I grow passive hydro, and I feed all of my Hoya the General Hydroponics 3-part nutrient system, and I've been doing that since 2020. So 4 years, and it's worked for me. I have tried different ones, but I always go back to this one because it's just tried and true for me.
That's awesome. And you said that they are in self-watering containers, planters, or they're not? They're in semi.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are in
Yeah.
some way. Can I grab one and I'll just explain it?
Yeah, of course. I would love to see
Yeah.
it.
So with passive hydro, you have the plant, and then you have a net pot which holds like your medium, and then you have the cache po, which is what the net pot goes in, and that's what holds the nutrient solution. So here, like, I have a cache po, and you can see the nutrient solution there. And this one's kind of unique, but my net pot is up here, and I have a wicking cord. So the wicking cord goes down into that reservoir. So that is how it's self-watering. But they call it passive hydro because there's no pump, there's no aeration, there's no like movement of water that you get in like hydroculture type growing, where it's constantly just like the flood and drain systems. This is passive because it's just sitting here in it. But yeah, so I mean, you could say that is a version of self-watering. But I don't buy specific self-watering pots. I usually take these net pots into like thrift stores, Target, and try to fit something.
Yeah, that's cool because then it's unique and personal.
Yeah.
And then do you water that from the top still, or do you just continue to water it from the bottom?
Yeah, I just pour it in. Well, I mean, and I probably take plant care a little too far. Like, all of my plants at least like once a month get a full wash down, a spray down. So I get everything clean, and then I re-up the nutrient solution. You just pour it on the top and it drains through and then just sits down on the bottom. So yeah,
very cool.
It's pretty easy. And it takes like a little bit more time between watering. So that's why I moved to this, because it helps me not be I like to be an active plant parent, but in Arizona, when it's like a weekly watering, it gets a little overwhelming. So this was kind of a method that helped me cut down being overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, that leads me into the next question. Like, when you bring a new plant into your space, do you do the quarantine and do you spray it down? Do you have a routine that you do? Or you just kind of like, I trust this nursery. I'm just going to throw this in with the others.
I definitely treat it and take care of it and quarantine it, especially.
Yeah.
But I would say the majority of the times I buy a plant, it's only like one node, because I really love getting just like cuttings or very small plants and then watching them grow. So a lot of the times with Hoya, it's really easy to just like run that under hot water, take a soft bristle toothbrush and just like completely scrub the whole thing down. And then it's pest free. If it's a cutting.
Adam, wait, so a lot of these larger plants that you show are like nodes that you've grown into these plants.
Yeah. I never buy a full plant. So all of these are started with just like 2 leaves, 1 node.
Amazing.
I love it.
Wow.
And sometimes I just
love
like to
it too.
restart them. So I'll just like take a cutting and restart it. Yeah.
My trellis is a little absurd, but here's what's happening. I just don't understand.
Is it mushy like squishy?
Yeah, I mean, it was like a couple days ago, and now I just need to let it dry out because it was like mushy, but like, and it was doing so good. Like, before I watered it, it looked amazing, and it was all like bushy, and now it's like and
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. But
I'm guessing you do have that in soil, right?
yeah,
It may be overwatered, especially that leaf that you pulled off. The camera on my side is kind of blurry, but it looked like there was some yellow on that.
yeah,
And yellow is a pretty good indication of overwatering. So I think you just need to let her sit and let her fully dry through.
yeah, yeah.
And then
so,
see, I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
just,
mean,
I
you live
love
in Florida.
Hoyas
You
too.
should have all of the Hoya.
I know. I have a compacta outside that's beautiful, and it just stays outside, and I don't even hardly water it because the rain. But yeah, I'm like, maybe I need to just throw all of the Hoyas out there. I don't know. Do you have any heirloom plants that you've received from friends or family members that are special to you, that have
I
been
do.
in family of generations?
Well, I have a big heirloom carnosa that's on a trellis that's like 7 feet tall, and it's just like pretty full up to the top. I wonder if I can just change my Well, I don't want to mess up your settings, but I was gonna see if I can change my camera so you could see it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's see. Okay. Do you see it over there in the corner?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so
huge.
that is my heirloom carnosa. And it came from my sister, so it wasn't like really in my family. She had a roommate that had it, and then he just kind of left. And then she was like, I know you like plants. Do you want this? And that was like early 2018. I was like, sure. And it's just grown into this huge, huge Hoya, and I absolutely love it.
yeah, it's beautiful.
But yeah, okay, I'll move back to me now. But yeah, so I have that one, and then I have a compacta that came from my uncle out in Maryland. He had a plant that he grew and gave my stepmom, took a cutting of it, and then she grew it out really big. So then she gave me a cutting of it, and now mine has root mealy, so it's struggling. So I think I need to restart it.
What is like the big pest that you need to watch out for with Hoyas?
It honestly feels like it's cyclical, and there's a new one that pops up every freaking year. But the first one is flat mites, and that is definitely a pest that mainly stays on Hoya orchids. That is detrimental because it is basically invisible. Well, it is invisible. You need a microscope to make sure you don't have them, and none of us did that for like the first 4 years of collecting, and then it was just like flat mites everywhere. I got them under control, and then root mealies popped up. I've never really dealt with mealy bugs. I have seen them before on the foliage, but root mealies are just a whole nother issue. But found a way to rid myself of those. And because I grow in pond and in passive hydro, I can do soil drenches. So just like I just fill up my pots with Pure Crop 1 drench method until they cover all of the pond for like 30 minutes and then dump them out. And that actually has cured my root mealies. So it's been really nice.
Wow.
But they are a pain. And honestly, if you grow in soil and you have root mealies, I don't even know. Because like drenching a plant in soil, you can do it. You can dunk all your plants, but it gets just so messy.
Yeah, and then you have to repot it, and
Ugh.
yeah,
They're the worst.
yeah. It sounds like the worst. Your husband, is he a plant guy, or he just puts up with your plant love?
Yeah. We're not officially married, but we are in our hearts. It's okay though. He does put it up with it. Like he has to, because there's literally plants everywhere. I was just thinking the other day about like, I wonder how many plant people have plants in every single room of their house, like plants or plant materials, supplies. Like there's always plants in the sink. There's always plants in the shower, and he just deals with it. He's got the patience of a saint. So not a plant person, but he likes the vibe, and he's learning. Like it's cute to watch him. Like if we go to Florida, he'll be like, "Oh, look at that monstera," all of these cool.
Yeah.
He can recognize plants and call them out.
Yeah, when I was doing some research through this week about you and with your social media, I saw the tour that you had at Perfect Choice Nursery.
Yeah,
It was insane. And
it was. That's a nice place.
I need to get there. It's a beautiful nursery, huh?
How far are you from like Fort Lauderdale area?
Like 6-7 hours, a little bit. I'm in Jacksonville,
Oh.
so I'm northeast.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm up here. Yeah, yeah. I went to Orlando today, and it's like a 2-hour drive. So down
Dang.
there is even like 3 or 4 more hours. But
Yeah.
so beautiful. I was like, wow. I mean, I hear so many people, other planty people on the gram talk about it, but I didn't really see, like, the video you did was so amazing. I was like, wow, this place is insane.
It is
So
really pretty.
You stopped there after a cruise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And do you go to a lot of, like, the plant shows and the markets?
I haven't. I really have always wanted to go to the International Aeroid Show in Florida. I've never gotten there though. And then there's not a lot around here, but I want to start going to some like orchid shows because it seems like orchid people are letting Hoya people like into the mix. And I've never been to an orchid show either, but I have been thinking a lot about, because I've been seeing all these other Hoya groups and people have like these expositions where people can bring in like mother plants for like a show, almost like state fairs, how you can like do a show with like animals or that kind of stuff. And it was with plants. And I was like, that would be really fun to do locally. Like try to have some sort of exhibition where I can get some Hoya people to like let us lend their mother plants for like a day and have them judge and stuff. But yeah, I haven't really gotten a ton of experience with all of the shows. Yeah. And I think the other one, like PlantCon, did you go to that?
No, I've never been to a plant show either. I just went to my first plant swap not too long ago, so I'm still very much a newbie, I guess, because I didn't even know what a plant swap was. I was like, what do you mean? And then I was like, oh, it's so cool too, because like it's so queer, and I love that. Like, especially being in Jacksonville, and I'm just kind of like new to the area and coming from New York City. I'm just kind of like holding my guard up. And it was really cool to go to something like this, and it was very queer and queer positive, and I'm just like, wow, I really love this community much more every day, because I'm realizing that that there is so much love and acceptance in this community. Going into that, what do you, especially since it's Pride Month, what does Pride mean to you?
Oh boy. I think to me it just means that we, as in people who are in the LGBTQ plus community, we have the ability to live authentically, to show people like this is who we are, and we're not going anywhere, and we're about love and acceptance and empathy. And I don't know. So it's always kind of like hard to think about, because I think as gay men, or even as like, I was a closeted little gay boy for the majority of my life until my mid 30s is when I came out. But it's a unique lived experience that not many people understand. And sometimes I wish it was a lot different, but then I also am grateful, because I think living the experience that I lived and that what a lot of gay kids live is, it taught me a lot of empathy, and I would never want to not have that. Like I want to always be full of empathy for others. And I don't know, but Pride is just, it's a time where we can just show up and celebrate with our community and let others see the love and all the fun stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I thank you so much for sharing that. I love seeing your fashion moments on a regular
Yeah.
basis. I love that you gender bend your fashion often, and I think especially as you know, not older, but we're not in our 20s. We're not in our
No.
20s, but I think as gay men, it's important. It's important to allow ourselves to be authentic and be that queer person that you weren't allowed to be as a kid. And that's the cool thing too with plants, that I found plants at a very heartbreaking time in my life, and yet in that pain of losing my husband to cancer, it's when I started to like really start collecting plants. It really opened up a whole new world of just love and self acceptance, and allowing these plants to mirror the things that I go in, that I have dealt with, and really reclaiming gay joy. And so I say all that to say, to go back to the whole plant swap. Like, it was just really cool to see that there are so many queer people invested in plants.
Yeah.
Yes, it's cool.
I was gonna as comment on that too, is that what I love plant swaps because I am painfully introverted. I know people might think different because they see me through a screen, but like if in real life, like it's painful how introverted I am. But when you go to a plant swap, like everyone's there because they like plants and you immediately have something you can talk about. So it's like, it lets you feel less afraid, I guess, because
Right.
you have a whole group of people that like you have something in common already and you know what that is because you are there. And I think it's just, they're such fun events to do and to be a part of. And that's how I met, that's where I met Becca for the first time. De La Plants is at a plant swap too. How I met my other two co-hosts.
Really?
Because I do another podcast called Let's Talk Hoya, which is specifically about Hoya, with two local friends. And we met at a plant swap. So there's so much, it's been ebbs and flows with the community, but I've been in it for a while. Like over the pandemic, we saw a lot of people struggling. So they flooded because plants are a therapy. And like, thank you for sharing your story. That's also kind of my story in a way. It was therapy for me. Like I was in a marriage and I was realizing I was going to come out as gay and I felt very alone, and plants were just something I could pour into. And then I had a community of people online that like, I don't know. I didn't have that in real life. I didn't have anyone online where I could be my real self. Like didn't have anyone in real life where I could be authentic. And so I think the plants gave me like an avenue to find a community where I could be the authentic person that I wanted to live, and then gave me the courage to take those steps to live authentically publicly. And if I didn't have plans to focus on during that period of my life, I don't know what would have happened, because it was tough. And just like you, and plants like got us through something. So I always have like a very special place in my heart for plants, and then the plant community because of all these things. I moved across country only knowing my partner, and because of plants, like I had a community here in Arizona where I started friendships. And it's like hard doing that as an adult in your 30s to like find new friends, but plants have helped me do that. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah, same. I can relate to that. It is hard, and society would like to say that we shouldn't do or can't do. And you have been such an inspiration to me. And there is something that I had on the other day that looked kind of like a skirt, kind of like these long baggy pants, and I'm like, don't wear this. This is weird. And I was like, no, like you can do this as a grown man. Like, who is stopping you? Don't allow your, insecurities and your own mistruths to deny you from having fun with fashion, because it's just fashion. It's not hurting anybody.
Yeah, like that. And it's kind of been like, I know you say like, thank you for doing that, but I feel like I'm doing it because I need to retrain my mind as well to be like, clothes don't have a gender. And the little Adam who wanted to wear all these things and got called, the F word, got bullied. Like, I just want him to know, like, you can do whatever you want, and you can wear whatever you want, and you can paint your nails if you want to. So it's been a journey, but I feel like it's really healing parts of me that need to be healed. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And also, I saw you in that kimono watering those plants, so I know you're not afraid to go out.
I'm not. Well, I mean, and I really I really contribute it to like seeing, you know, my peers like you living their authentic life and being like, screw it, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't have to do this, but for anyone, but like you said, little Wade that wanted to wear a kimono in his underwear, you know, and not, you know, and not be teased and humiliated for it, but I appreciate that. Thanks. I know my husband was like, "Whoa, I cannot believe you," because, you know, I came from a very, very conservative, born again Christian background, and everything was like, "Why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for?" And that I still have a mindset all the time. You know, like my husband will have like short shorts on. I'm like, "Who are you doing that?" And he's like, "My 10-year-old self that wanted to do this and couldn't do it." And it's just like, yeah, you're so right. You're so right.
Yeah,
So-
like I said, that with that lived experience, like we probably have a lot of internalized homophobia, and I'm like, and I see that in myself sometimes, and I don't like that. So that's why I'm like, you gotta always do the work, but you know, it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it. When are you going to go see Becca's greenhouse? Let's
Oh
talk
my
about Becca's greenhouse.
gosh.
This is insane. I can't stop watching the videos. I'm like, I'd have a cot out there and just sleep out there. It's insane.
Absolutely.
And she built it herself.
Yeah, and it's been a journey because it's been like there's and I'm grateful to be her friend, so I can see the journey publicly, but also like hear about it in more personal context, because it hasn't been easy for her, and she's persevered through it. So I'm happy. I'm proud of her, and it's so gorgeous. So I did see it when I was back in Missouri in February. It wasn't fully finished, but it was a good chunk of the way done, and it was so
Yeah.
pretty in there. And now seeing like her final video, because it's finally finished, and I'm just like, yes, set up a day bed, because I would sleep under the stars all night long.
Yeah, I know. I was like, can I rent a space? Just come stay a couple nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Tell me a little bit about the Patreon. Like, you can get more episodes of Potted Together through Patreon.
Yeah. Patreon came out of just a need of, we were doing this passion project. I think we were doing the podcast for like 4 years before we launched Patreon, but you know, there's not like a ton of money in podcasting unless you're like out there reaching out to people. And I don't do that because I hate the feeling of being told no. So, or whatever, the rejection. So we don't really do that. But so Patreon, we wanted to start because we wanted to use the money to pour back into the podcast for live events, etc. And it was a way for us to earn money doing a podcast. And so we have two tiers. We have one tier that's like $5 a month, and you get one bonus episode a month where it's like an hour long chit chat. Like, the Patreon is not plant talk. It is all personal, all unfiltered. And then we do a weekly one now that's like 30 to 40 minutes. So that if you subscribe to that tier, then you get another just like 30 to 40 minutes a week, just us just shooting the shit. It gets pretty wild too.
And is there a YouTube with Potted Together, or you just each individually have your own YouTubes?
We do have a YouTube. We've done some videos, but yeah, it's usually just our individual. And Becca is really the only one that's like consistently putting out content on YouTube. Like, I never did it for money because I do have like a full-time job that's not plants. But I really love video editing. I love camera gear, lighting. I just love the whole thing. So whenever I get one done, I'll do it. But I'm not like I have to release a video every week.
Yeah. And could you tell me again the second podcast that you have? What is it called? The Hoya podcast.
Yeah, it's called Let's Talk Hoya.
Awesome. And people can find that all throughout where they listen to their podcast. And
Yep.
you have an Instagram as well.
Yes, Let's Talk Hoya.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Do
Yeah.
you have any upcoming events or anything that you want to share?
I don't think so. There's a possible Potted Together meetup happening, possible, in July in Chicago, because I will be back there. So stay tuned for that. And if you care about Potted Together, you just follow us on Instagram, and I'm sure we'll be posting about it there. But other than that, nope, just, chilling.
Just chilling.
I didn't say where Not Dude came from, though.
Oh,
The
yeah,
real
yeah,
ones,
yeah.
the real
Yeah.
ones who know will know.
Yes. What?
It came from my start into plants, which was macrame. So I used to do a lot of macrame, like plant hangers, wall hangings, all of that stuff. And so when my Instagram started as like a macrame Instagram, but then I had all these plant hangers, and I'm like, well, I should fill these up. And then I got a lot of plants, and then it spiraled from there. But that's where Not Dude came from.
Not dude. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Because I think,
Do you still have a lot of them?
yeah, I do have a lot of the plant hangers still. I have all of the supplies because us neurodivergent folks just love our hobbies. But yeah, I don't really use a lot of plants in the hangers anymore, just a few. But yeah, I have them.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining me. I
of
appreciate it.
course. This was such a joy.
This was awesome. Yeah, and we'll have to do it again.
Yes.
And maybe I'll learn how to do where I can get more than one person, and we could do a group chat with Becca and Nicole too. Because
Yeah.
like I said, Adam, I love listening to the podcast because I feel like I'm just sitting there listening to my friends talk about life and plants, and so that makes it really fun.
Well, that's really sweet, because that's what I like the most about it too, is that we can keep you company while you're doing plant chores or whatever. And also we all forget that we're actually recording a podcast. So sometimes we just like are very true to ourselves without, as you can tell, like when you are on video, you kind of like feel like you have a little different poise to yourself. But when we're doing a podcast, we're like in our pajamas, just FaceTiming, and it's just off the rails sometimes. It's fun.
I love it. So the podcast isn't recorded. It's just audio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we don't have nice. We sit where we have better sound quality. So like me, for the most of the time, I sit in a closet. So it's just not aesthetically pleasing for a video.
Right. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hi, plant people. Thank you so much for joining us for the 15th episode of the Plants by Wade Lee podcast. I love creating this podcast, especially for conversations like I just had with Adam, also known as Not Dude. Make sure to follow his podcast, Potted Together, as well as Let's Talk Hoya. Next week for the 16th episode, we are going to be joined with ceramic artist, Well Traveled Wares, Nicole Casiro. I have one of her beautiful Gatsby planters. You will be seeing that on the pod. Remember to be kind to yourself and others. If you want that plant, buy that plant. Until next time, bye-bye.